So my story is about a girl who grew up in a nuclear family that had extreme trauma. And because some people may think, oh, then she's weak. Why is she? We don't have time for kindness. And I think it's the complete opposite. The idea of thriving for me and getting over and really excelling and then teaching others is you.
Podcast 305 office. This is a dream come true. Um, I'm going to encourage this 20% of the people showing up and putting like, subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna thank you. In this episode, we'll sit down here with someone who walked through the fire and came out and not just stronger, but with a mission. Sonya Aleman isn't just a coach. She's a force of transformation from the darkest valleys of life to the brightest vision of hope. Sonya helps people not just survive, but rise. This is not just a conversation. This is a life lesson. So thank you very much, Sonya, for being here. And before we explore what you do, I want to start with who you are and not just the resume, Sonia. It's the real story. Can you take us back to the breaking point, this moment when you whispered yourself, this cannot be? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about my truth and my story and this beautiful brickle. So my story is about a girl, actually a very young child who grew up in a nuclear family that had extreme trauma and the rising of it and how to survive through that. And I have many different elements that happened through that way where I took care of myself. I figured a way to navigate through extreme times and how then to build yourself as a young woman and rise and have a career and get educated and how you go through that journey. And now coming many years later, over 20 years in corporate America, how then to continue to thrive and teach and mentor others.
That's great. That's and the strength and to develop that, it's something that we have to develop this underneath. Was there actually a moment, Sonia, where your pain started to feel like you have a purpose when it stopped being just about survival and became about helping others? What was this moment and how it represents for you, how it develops on yourself?
It was a long journey. I'll tell you, this is nothing easy. Nothing is easy, but going through all of that, coming out as a young woman and having a career. What I say, I use an analogy. And when I coach teams and individuals, I really try to use this analogy. Think of my hands and look at that as a bridge. And on the left hand side is where you're getting stuck, whatever you're going through. Now, of course, I have my own story, but I look at it as you're on that left side of the bridge and you're being pulled down. You're in mud. You're being pulled down by people, by family, by friends, by circumstances, and they're pulling you down into that mud. And the idea of thriving for me and getting over and really excelling and then teaching others is you need to get out of that left side of the bridge and go to the middle. And it's a long process. It's a difficult process. And once you get to that middle side, no longer can those people, things, circumstances keep pulling you down in that mud where you can't even ever thrive. You're just trying to survive and not be pulled down. Once you get to that middle bridge, you have that time and that space to learn what is it, how can you thrive more? And then when you walk over to the right side, and I talk in depth, I can talk in more depth about that. What are the things you can do to take those steps? And when I felt like I was getting on the right side is when I really truly feel I can thrive. And then when you're fully on that right side, you know you have all of that strength and all of that armor where those people can't. or circumstances can't hurt you anymore. And you have tool sets as to help, because life will always put you in other circumstances that life is never going to be perfect. You're always going to have some difficulties. So you have a lot of tools to work by and to use for future issues. But the main issues, you got to get over to that middle side of the bridge and start walking to the right side.
And in the side of, you said before that humanity is your business card. How have this authenticity and vulnerability that help you build trust in the world where so many hide behind titles?
Good question. Good question. When I decided to really start mentoring and start my coaching business, I did not want to go the route, because the market right now is flooded with a lot of people working on AI technology, chat GPT. They're using that for their formats and their business models. And I wanted this to be a very private story and a private human to human connection with my clients. I could have very well used ChatGPT for this. You can tell it's very natural. I'm saying it as it comes. We're live, and that's what I want. I do believe we are at a point that the pendulum is going to shift over to more humanity and more human to human. We are all in the buzz about AI and everything going on, but everything comes around. I do believe that, and you can see a little bit right now of people saying, oh gosh, that sounds like a robot, or that sounds this, or the writing sounds like it wasn't human. You hear a little bit of it, but I think it's going to continue to rise, and people are going to want to reach out to others that say, let's sit down, let's talk, let's grab the coffee, human to human. Let me share my story, not written by anybody else. And it's from the heart, and it's from that moment, living in that moment, helping people.
Exactly. That's key. That's an inflection point where we as humans, we should make this difference for ourselves and for our careers, because that's what we got actually. And do you believe that in this digital age, this moment in life, maybe we are deep dive in so many tasks, and how can we make these connections between what we are and the tasks that are that the life is challenging us right now? Because before it was not like that. Maybe 10 years ago it was so different. We're right now in this point where we as humans, we should differentiate ourselves. So how can we look for this point in our lives to differentiate and to thrive between careers, whatever is our passion? What is your perspective on that?
My perspective, and it's very interesting because we met at an in-person event here in
Yeah.
Wynwood. We just had this wonderful connection and energy, and we both realized how much in-person events, and it doesn't even have to be a networking event. The tools and what I believe, as people start to think about this, let's get back into the real humanity and less sitting in at home, is really looking at, number one, what are things that you enjoy? What are activities? It could be in fitness. It could be just going outside and taking a walk. But find groups that do things that you find, people, find events, and it can be nothing to do with your job, with your career. That's the first step, and try every week to do something. Be consistent. It's not going to be immediately the first event you're going to say, oh, I have all these friends and I feel so happy and I'm back. I feel such connections. You have to be consistent, just like anything else. Start one week, the next week, and the next week, but find things that you enjoy doing first. That would be my best advice.
Right, right. And you talk about a lot of going through darkness, not just getting by, but rising and transforming. What does this thriving actually mean to you, especially for someone who's hurting?
Okay, thrive. What does thriving mean to me? again, it means really getting on that other side of that bridge. So when you're in darkness, whatever it may be, again, my story and my trauma is different than everyone's, but no trauma is too small or too big. And that's what I teach, and I help others. Look at the traumas you have, look at the difficulties, the darknesses. And a starting point was what I just said, is starting to do things you love, starting to go out, because your communities and your opportunities will come from doing things you love. I know it may sound like, well, I'm just going to go for a walk. You join a walking group, you meet others that are doing that, and then momentum builds. And then sooner or later, you're walking and you're talking, and this person, has another event, and they're inviting you into a different community. And now you have 3 friends, and then you got 5 friends, and then, oh, well, let's go to dinner. It will build upon. And that's what I think is really, really important for each individual to look at what they love to do. And for me, what I did, that's the steps I took. I love fitness. I love the gym. I love learning. I have 20 years in the gym working out weights. I love cycling and spinning. And then I became an indoor cycling teacher, and I started to teach from the other side, from coaching and developing playlists and leading teams in that way. And there are many other things that I enjoy, but that just shows you a little pathway. Is you start with one thing and then it evolves into, who knew that was ever going to happen? Really didn't anticipate that happening.
Yeah. Everything comes naturally and at your pace and going out of a comfort zone.
Right.
Actually. But
taking the steps.
Sometimes we're in our day by day and we're not really aware what's happening in our life until we actually go there and through the next step, through the journey. And so there's people right now listening to this podcast and feeling stuck, Sonia, and maybe having this maybe toxic job, or maybe they're driving something they can even name. So it's gonna be one small but little small actionable step that they can take today to make this change, Sonia.
Well, I'll plug myself. One thing they can do is, and we'll get to it at the end, is they can certainly talk to me. I have free intro session, and we will dissect in that free intro session your needs and what your pain points are and what do you want to focus on. And then once we would do that, we would develop a plan and those small steps. Nothing ever. Listen, it took me 7 years from start to finish coming into understanding health and fitness and really thriving in the gym and being a force in the gym. I was deathly afraid to go to a gym with men, because I was, at that time, I was married and I was extremely overweight and I had no confidence. And I started in a women's gym. I didn't understand muscle building at all. It took me another year to get into a trainer and understand, the weight. So this is not a fast fix, but if you are out there and you're feeling stuck, large or small, reach out, and you want that human connection, please contact me. And again, use the advice that I've already said, is take steps to write and think about what you love doing. What makes you smile? What makes you energize? Everyone has different ideas of what that is, but make that
and filter the filter that you have with other people. When you connect with others, there's many energy, and it's bad energy and good energy.
Right,
So
that's
you
true.
gotta filter that on your perspective and your aura, I think.
You touched on a great point about energy levels. We all have heard this everywhere in social media, that the people you surround yourself with and bring the energy, and that is the type of people you're going to constantly, and you will become that. You hang around a bad crowd, you'll become a bad crowd. You'll integrate. So again, you have to look at what you enjoy doing, go to those people and places, and focus on positive energy, positive positive groups, being in person, and that will build the positive energy. You will get more experience at knowing, okay, I met this person. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to interact with me. There's something energetically not matching. Yeah. It's not the worst thing. Everyone is different. You just want to go for those people that want to be around you and don't force anything. And I would say, although that forcing anything in relationships as well, you can use that in your relationships. You can use that in the job when you're interviewing for a job. If that energy is not right and you're in a toxic work environment, have the bravery. And I talk a lot about this, and this is a passion of mine to talk about this. It is okay to have the courage and stand up and say, this is not my place. It is okay. Do not think you have to take it. Plan ahead. If you have financial issues, plan ahead. There are people out there and there are communities out there that can help you as well. Get through it. Do not think you have to take it. You do not.
Definitely. And talking, Sonia, about this leadership, you led project teams for many, many years and high stake, high pressure, but your model isn't fear, it's kindness. So, what does it like to lead those with kindness in corporate world?
Yes, I'm so glad you're touching on this because some people may think, oh, then she's weak. Why is she? We don't have time for kindness. And I think it's the complete opposite. I have led teams and again, being genuine and being authentic to my goal in life. When I really became out of my situation and my childhood trauma, as an adult, I made that decision that I will never, ever, I will always, always lead with kindness, meaning throw kindness out in the world as much as I possibly can. I'm not perfect, but I feel throwing kindness. We're humans. But as much as I can every day, throwing kindness into the air. So that became who I was. And when I led teams and the high pressure and the stakes, what I naturally started doing was developing relationship with team individuals on the teams, understanding who they were, understanding what drives them, what motivates them. And when it is difficult, because every project is difficult, when you're delivering and people have 20 jobs they're doing, it seems, you listen
For Sonia,
to that moment and you help them.
For Sonia, what is currently the position of money in your perspective and the perspective of the all the clients that you have been in touch with? What's the perspective on money? Money is happiness?
Well, some still believe that, but for me personally, what I try to guide folks and teams and people is no, you need to look at the whole person. You need to look at everything in your life. It is unfortunate that there are still a lot of cultures and people that thrive. And I say cultures because there are some real, true cultures that are driven by that corporate success and money and titles. And not everybody still is really coming. I think people are now listening, which I hope listeners here will listen. And if you take away anything, you listen about what can I do to make myself more well-rounded and more happy than just striving for promotion for your jobs or the culture that you're in or whatnot, that you realize it's about you. It's about your life and contributing to this wonderful community, this world we have. What's your purpose?
Right. Right. And also another thing is important to maybe the unlocking this excellence in teams, especially when morale is low, when people is just burned. And what is a message to those kind of groups that are maybe stuck or being like where well I'm doing over and over again same the same things, and I feel a burnout. What you say to what is your perspective on that burnout that comes someday, sometime in your life, and make you feel like overwhelmed or are not enough to be on the place?
There's many things that you should be taking into account when you're at that point. Number one, you need to do some inner work. Are you happy? Do you really want to be in that company? If you do, and you still want the burnout, and if those answers are yes, then you need to find other methods to de-stress, to help yourself. And again, it goes back to, uh, look at other methods of wellness and everything. Everybody has a different idea. It could be committing to a massage a week. It could be going and playing with your children. It could be volunteering at a community center that takes you out of that burnout.
Accountability groups.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, it takes you out of that environment. It it's a different world you're living in when you're doing those activities, so you can refresh and come back to that environment. But number two, I really do believe if you're at the burnout, you really need to ask the question, is this place for me, and why am I burned out? Did I speak up enough? Did I speak up to superiors and say, I'm burned out, I need some support? Did they give you support? Did they not give you support? You need to do other things as well within your work to be vocal. If you're vocal and the environment just is so toxic, you need to truly ask your question, can I have the courage to leave knowing the unknown? And again, that is when the greatest things happen, is when you're at the bottom and you have courage and you have no idea how you're going to make money, no idea if you're going to get another job, no idea if you're going to, but you trust and because living in that environment, you can't thrive, you can't survive. And the best things come out of, and you just have to trust that moving forward, it will, and things will transpire.
And also, Sonia, it's what do you think about right now with all the changes? We have tariffs here, economy very, very uncertain. What means uncertain for you and for your clients right now? What means that, and how to navigate this environment of, I don't know, we don't know what it's gonna be next week in our company, because the tariffs, because China, because Europe. What's how to navigate that?
I think the most important thing is you need to find a way to keep yourself calm, because the more that you're stressing, you're just going to spin and it's going to get out of control. And we talked on this a little bit about energy levels and being around positive people. There's so many tools. If you are into meditation, meditate. Get into a meditation group, get into a yoga group, get into a sound healing group. Miami is filled with beautiful events. I mean, if anyone's listening in the Miami area here, you have the best, most beautiful community. There are events every single night you can go to, events that incorporate all different types of healing modalities. And there's so many outdoor groups. So I say you have to find your way. Some don't like meditation. Okay. I'm a big proponent of holistic health and wellness. And that's, again, what I teach clients is, let's look at where you're at. Again, if they're worried about the tariffs or they're worried about what's happening right now in our country, let's do a deep dive session and find things that you can do each week that takes you out of that stress, to calm down. And then you start thinking positive thoughts to build momentum on positive things in your life that you can do that takes you out of that mindset. It's really a mindset shift you need to have, because we cannot change what's happening right now. We can change ourselves and our mindset and where we're going, instead of living in the stress and darkness.
We have a question in this podcast, 305 Office, and our other podcast, which is Éxito Compartido. We have the same question on that, because we are in our team, we're passionate on economy and so on. So we have a little question that you answer if you want.
Okay.
To answer.
All right.
Do you have Bitcoin?
No, I do not.
You do not.
No.
Okay. What do you think about all this movement? What is your perspective on that? Just your thought.
Well, I see the point. I see the investments. I also think, again, every different strokes for different folks. Everyone is different and what they're drawn to and what they want to do. Some are really into that and they believe that that is where the financial future will be. Some are even more zealous and over. Some are on it's a continuum. Some are dabble in that. Some like me, we're not there yet. I do believe it is something to educate yourself on and decide, is this something I want to contribute into now or in the future? But I think everyone should be more educated for sure.
Right, Sonia. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time, Sonia, but it's been a pleasure to be here and have this great conversation. And I enjoy so much this kind of perspectives and what is going to be this message for these people that want right now they are feeling that they need a coach. What is your words for those people, and what is going to be the first advice on that?
Well, my first advice would be a coach is in addition to if you have a therapist. We're not a clinical therapist or whatnot, but coaching can help guide and can help tell why I do it is to tell my story. And I have many other traumas that I'd love to help people out with because again, we talk about the human connection. So what I would say is look for a coach that you feel comfortable with and you take as a secondary advice if you need a traditional therapy. But again, what I do is I coach people on 3 different pillars, and the focuses are health and wellness, not only physical fitness, but nutrition, but these non-traditional, non-invasive, holistic health and wellness methods, which a lot of people are getting used to understanding, but there's even more advancement in touchless wellness technology and in other methods. And second area is corporate coaching and really coaching teams to excellence. Again, teaching leading with kindness. If you're having difficulties at work, come to me, right. Have an intro session. And then, of course, we touched on this earlier, is anyone going through trauma, whether it's small or large, how to navigate through that. Because I think all these 3 pillars, and I know that they all intermingle and they all kind of touch within each other. If your physical body isn't right and you're not good there, your mind might not be right at work. And then if you have things that are happening to you currently or in the past that cause you stress that are, trauma, small or large, again, it can be very small. It all goes together.
That's great. So I wanna talk now to my community 305 office. Thank you for being there. So this is a dream come true, this podcast, and I am going to encourage again you to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I am and my team are compromised, are committed to bring great people to this podcast. And thank you very much for being here and watching or listening to this podcast. So where can we find Sonya Aleman? Where can we get in touch?
You can get in touch with me on Instagram at SON. And if you go on my profile, you'll see a link to intro session.
We're gonna put it in the description.
Yeah, you can click on that link and then you can, whatever time and day is good for you, we could do an intro complimentary session. Or if you feel more comfortable just emailing me privately, you can email me at SONIA coaching, the word coaching, the letter K at gmail.com.
That's a great email address.
It is.
So perfect. So thank you very much. And until the next time, people. Thank you very much.